right, this is round 2. We're going to be watching today the sentencing of Linda Stermer. And if you haven't been following along with this trial that just ended not too long ago, this has been like so many years in the making. Linda was arrested in 2007. She is accused of setting her house on fire, maybe doing some type of harm to husband, and leaving the house. He ended up being able to get out of the house as well. And she took a van and drove it around the side of the house to the backyard where he got out, and she ran him over. It's been awful. And they have teenage boys at the time. Now some of them are married and they have grandchildren that she'll never get to see. And with their father being passed away, it's just sad. They basically lost both their parents at the same time. So we're going to go ahead and watch her sentencing, the victim impact statements. Let me move myself further to the corner. We've talked a lot about children who have parents who were either murdered or part of the murder, and like for instance Monica Cementelli. And it's completely normal to have one parent that dies, so the children are like clinging on to the other one and they only want to see the good in the person. And it's so normal, right? But in this trial, it's complete opposite. The boys from day one think it was her, thought it was her, and have all testified to that. So pretty damning to sit there as a juror and hear that. So it's a sad situation. Let's see how it turns out. Oh, and with this 2007, when she was arrested, she had her trial in 2010. And in 2020, they said that her rights were violated so she could have a new trial. And they let her be out of jail. From 2020 to now, she was outside free. I cannot believe that. And I don't understand how she wasn't a flight risk, but evidently here she is. Just awful. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and start it. I'm doing a lot of talking.
Maggie, is there a Kleenex there, just in case? Yep. Okay, thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm not sure I can get through this. I'm going to try. It's very short.
Take your time.
I love and miss Todd every day. He was a wonderful son, brother, and father to his 3 sons. It breaks my heart that he didn't live to see what wonderful young men and fathers his sons have become. He would have loved being a grandfather to his 6 grandchildren. Every time I see them, I see him smiling.
Do you want to sit down, ma'am? Yeah, we can pull up a seat for you.
I had no idea that it was 6 grandchildren.
Is that better? Do you want to try to finish what you were
That's all.
That's it? Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Todd is my brother, and I've been really conflicted about whether I wanted to speak today on his behalf or on all our family's behalf. Because nothing I say is really ever going to change. Todd's still going to be gone. Our lives are still never going to feel complete again. The role of him not being here will never be filled. But not speaking or not sharing some of my outrage and pain over his death, not correcting the image that has been painted of Todd, doesn't seem right either. When Linda was let out of prison in 2018, our whole family was in shock. It was incomprehensible to us. These last 6 years that Linda has been out living her life shook my faith in the law and in justice and in all that is right. It's been so hard having to listen to her lies and having her play the victim in this. And every single time I hear her speak, I just think who's checking that? Who knows? Who's paying attention to what is real and what is not real? Because she's lied so much that it's hard to keep straight. I think if anyone's learned anything at this point is that Linda is incapable of telling the truth. So I'd like people to know that my brother, Todd, was not an awful person. He was definitely not the abusive control freak Linda and her lawyers tried to make him out to be. He was a good guy. He had a great sense of humor. He was kind and funny. He cared about his community and his family and his friends. He was always there if you needed him. They say if you want to know what a guy is really like, watch how he treats his mother. There wasn't anything Todd wouldn't do for Mom. He fully intended to build Mom a place on his property when she was older so he could take care of her. And I have no doubt that he would have done that. It was Todd who showed up with his truck on a Saturday when it was pouring rain to help me move. One of those washout pouring rain days, but it's just not gonna let up. Had a whole house to move. Todd drove in from Lawrence. I was delighted to find out he was the only one there to help me move. And he just grinned and said, I hope you're buying lunch. You could count on Todd. He was loyal and protective of those he loved. And he was gifted at making the ordinary fun. He was so creative and imaginative. He loved the holidays. He loved Halloween and Christmas. He made them all special for everyone. But just the everyday times that we spent with Todd were just as fun, just as great. Todd liked the classics. He liked Elvis Presley and Johnny Mathis and Randy Travis. He wasn't afraid to show emotions or cry, but he was one of the toughest people I knew. And it would have broke his heart to know that his death ended his son's childhoods and altered all our lives forever. One of the biggest heartbreaks for me to this day is that it's difficult to talk about Todd without talking about how he died. And there is no question that he suffered an excruciating and painful death. There wasn't one person who was there that day who didn't have a hard time talking about his injuries. I can't help but think about what Todd must have been feeling that day he died. What a Herculean effort it took for him to escape that house, to put out the fire engulfing his body, only to have her deliberately run over him with that van. And still he hung on. He was that tough. He was trying so hard to live. And it absolutely kills me to know that hers was probably the last face he saw in this world. Linda's an evil person. She deserves no one's mercy. She should never have been given another trial or let out of prison to start with. But now that she has been found guilty twice of this crime, I hope she will finally go to prison for the rest of her life, and we can be done with her. She doesn't deserve the hope of ever being free again. And while I'm normally a compassionate person, I have zero forgiveness in my heart for Linda. And I hope when death comes for her, I hope it is as painful and as agonizing as the one you put Todd through. You deserve it. You are an awful human being.
I just have a short statement from myself, and then I also have a statement from my sister Kathy, who cannot be here today, but asked me to read her statement. My statement's simple. This weekend, rest assured, we're going to be celebrating the holiday in Todd's memory. You'll be in prison. My sister Kathy's statement is such. The picture that she's referring to is on the right with her daughter. This picture was taken the last time I and my two children, then ages 4 and 2, saw my brother Todd alive. It was August of 2006. We were having a family dinner with Todd and his 3 boys and some other family members. We had a wonderful time. There was lots of laughter, silliness, which was usual when Todd was around. Todd was always a favorite with the kids, and my two kids adored their Uncle Todd. I think that this is because he had such joy of life and remained in touch with his inner child his whole life. I miss my brother. I think of him every day and of all we lost when he was taken from our lives so brutally and so unnecessarily. My life and my children's lives are immensely poor for his loss, as are the lives of all his many friends and family members, but especially his three children, his boys. They lost their dad as teenagers and have had to go through the difficult years of early adulthood without him there to help guide them. They have grown into adults that I know their father would be proud of. I see Todd in each one of them, especially in their love and their prioritization for their children. We all lost so much when Todd was taken from us, but we have at least some memories of him to help us sustain us. I feel the worst and the sorriest for his grandchildren, who never knew, nor will they ever get to know, their grandfather, who would have adored them. Every time I am blessed with the chance to spend time with Todd's grandchildren, I can't help but feel sad that he never got a chance to meet them and to get to know him. I know he would have been a daily presence and a positive influence in their lives. Todd's death has left a giant hole in my heart and our family, but knowing that the person responsible for taking his life will spend the rest of her life in prison will help us find some peace and some level of closure. When you take into account all the people in whose lives have been made less by this untimely death, 2 life sentences don't seem enough. It's a beginning and it's a start, but it's not enough. For the past 6 years, we have had to live with the emotional and mental stress and pain that she was out of prison. She never should have been there. But knowing that Todd's killer is going behind bars for the rest of her life will provide us some closure at last. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
All right, so victim impact statements are done. We're gonna go ahead and get the sentencing set up. I also wanted to say, so with the mom having the teenage boys go to a movie and she woke them up to get them out of the house, and they actually tried to go and say goodbye to their dad before they went to the movies. And I believe he was in like the living room, maybe on a chair or a couch, but the mom, or Linda, went directly in between them and basically scolded them and told them to go. So they did. But the dad really, he didn't say anything. Something was a little off. And they are convinced now that she must have drugged him or something before she set the house on fire. It's awful.
Well, to the family members, first off, I do hope that you have the opportunity for closure. Celebrate as much as you can celebrate something like this, but I hope that you do spend this weekend, as you talked about, honoring Todd. And again, hopefully today will bring you some level of closure. Ms. Stermer, you've now had the process that was due to you. You had an extraordinary team of attorneys working on your behalf, not for months, but for years. With ardor, they filed motions and pursued what appeared to be every avenue on your behalf. They brought in experts to undermine and contradict the testimony of the prosecution's experts and to bolster the defense theory of the case. You also had, this time around, a new prosecution team in this trial and in the years leading up to this trial. From this court's perspective, this prosecution was diligent, thorough, and zealous, but they also played by the rules and worked under the mantra of seeking justice, not just a conviction. All this to say that I am confident, Ms. Stermer, that you received a fair trial. Murder is by its nature a monstrous deed, but the one you've committed is even more gruesome than most. You lit your husband on fire and burned him alive. When he made it out of the house and you had a chance to reconsider your actions, you instead doubled down and ran him over with your car. I cannot fathom the suffering he endured in his last moments of life. And I cannot fathom the damage you've inflicted on Todd's family, his mother, his siblings, now your grown children, his grown children. You lured them out of the house using one of your many labyrinths of lies. They went to the mall and movie at your request, thinking you'd be discussing divorce details with your victim. And you didn't even allow them to say their customary goodbye to their father before you murdered him. Now they live with not only the murder of their father at the hands of their mother, but the fact that had you not convinced them to leave, you may not have had your window, or at least on that date, to commit your heinous acts. Their testimony was clearly difficult, but it was compelling. Your sons displayed on the stand the courage and strength of character often associated with those who have endured significant trauma. I use the word sons loosely, as they clearly do not recognize you as their mother anymore. Suffice it to say that if there was ever a list of all of the things parents should do on behalf of their children, murdering the other parent would not be on that list. This court is to balance punishment, protection, deterrence, and rehabilitation where possible. I'm hopeful you will engage in programming when returned to the Department of Corrections, programming which may or may not provide some measure of rehabilitation, but only a sentence of life without the possibility of parole can protect others from you and deter others from committing like conduct. And only a sentence of life without the possibility of parole can properly punish you for the heinous acts you've committed in burning your husband alive and in leaving your children with that imprint forever. The sentence of the court is life without the possibility of parole. Credit is 3,367 days. I'm showing that mandatory financials have already been paid, so I won't reorder those. And counsel, the judgment will this time state one first-degree murder conviction with the two alternative theories. Is that satisfactory to counsel?
Yes, Your Honor.
It's
Okay.
stating like which one.
Well, I'll just put first degree and then put under two alternative theories, either felony murder or premeditated.
Thank you.
Does that work? Okay. Ms. Stermer, you have a right to appeal the conviction and sentence. You have a right to ask for a court-appointed attorney to assist you in that appeal if you're financially unable to afford your own. If you do wish to make the request, you need to fill out the paperwork we're getting you now and turn it back into the court within 42 days of today's date. Bond is canceled. Anything else, counsel?
Nothing further, Your Honor.
What an emotional roller coaster. I mean, it's been almost 20 years that he had died, and she was found guilty, and everybody was happy, and justice was being served. And then to go and make a big jump to 2020 and let her loose. I mean, I think his siblings were beyond devastated. I would imagine the boys were too. You just want to put it to bed and be done with it. You got the justice and that's that. But yeah, to have it reopened again is crazy. But this is her last one. That's twice now, guilty on all charges. So at least for the family, they can move on from this and not have to even think about her again if they don't want to. All right, I'm going to be on later. I'm doing another live. I think tonight will be the night that I do more of my chats that I had with Lana, Sarah Boone's friend. Not going to do all of it, but people had asked me questions, and I actually can answer some of them, and I'm not, giving away personal information or anything. So it'll be done tastefully. But yeah, so far I have quite a few questions, and I have the answers. So if you have any, on my main page, I have a post area, and I put it up there. The same thing that I put in the chat is over there. So if you'd rather do it over there and ask a question, that's perfectly fine. But all right, if I'm coming on tonight for it, it'll probably be in like an hour and a half, 2 hours. So thank you for watching, and I will see you later.